Hello, everyone. My name is James Abraham. I am a senior at Design Tech High School. And what you're about to hear is not just how modern society is struggling to treat our fellow human beings well, but also how we will struggle to, or essentially the consequences for struggle as time goes on if we do not solve this. Now, what you're about to hear is the product of an afternoon's worth of writing. However, it is a product of something much more, which is I've been thinking about these for sort of years, these different sort of ideas and concepts for years in various different places. They sort of run throughout my mind. But essentially, I will be talking about things that will be very important in our near future. I will be discussing technology, the human nature, and sort of how empathy will become a necessity for our continued survival. Now, throughout all of human history, we have been fighting each other. Every decade, creating weapons stronger than the last, finally culminating in the construction of the thermonuclear bomb. Essentially, war has escalated from the tribal to the continental to the global level. Many people have basically suggested that this is the product of religion or dictators or ideology. I disagree with these statements. I believe that the cause of warfare is hunger, guns, and preconceptions. First, people require a need which develops into motivation. They then need the means to wage war, and finally, they need a justification. They need a way to say that I am the good guy and they are the bad guy. In the past, war was survivable. Now, war between any major power would result in mutually assured destruction. Now, this has been a fact of daily life for decades now. Essentially, we've lived with the concept of ICBMs. However, as time progresses, new weapons are becoming autonomous and they are becoming less accountable. An organization known as the Future of Life Institute released a 7-minute video detailing the creation and social effects of autonomous microdrones. Now, for those of you wondering, what is an autonomous microdrone? Essentially, imagine a small robot the size of a fly and with the reflexes of a fly that is designed to deliver explosives to your head. Now, that's a very disturbing thought. They're not quite there yet, but they could be on the way. All they require is facial recognition, web searching, and essentially, these drones could be programmed to automatically extract data from people's social feeds and then check, is this against the ideology of my programmer, and then they could automatically eliminate that person. Nobody would pull a trigger, they would go out and do it themselves. Another possibility is that self-driving cars could be everywhere, and currently, these are wireless. I believe last week Tesla updated their self-driving cars to correct a stopping distance error, and they were able to fix a problem that would have, in the past required a recall. Now, however, in the future, if the hacking became a problem, they would lose that ability. They would have to cut their cars from wireless contact, and then they could not update their vehicles. Essentially, what I'm saying is that small groups can anonymously cause a great amount of damage in the near future. Many people have suggested different techniques to prevent these technologies and scenarios from occurring, from nets to international peace treaties. I do not believe any of these would work. If you wanted to stop a micro-drone attack, you would have to make every building armored and windowless. And if the consequences for these, and if we fail to stop these, what could happen is a mass amount of self-censorship, which would result as people would be in fear and would no longer feel comfortable disclosing their own opinions. And there would be no way to check with where these attacks came from. And now I'm going to transition into a bit of a tangent, but essentially, currently, technology is still continually changing. Like those may be events that are in the near future, but even if we look into problems that are come down decades or centuries into the future, things are going to get a lot more complicated. Now I'm going to go off onto a bit of a sci-fi tangent, however I believe it is important. If you're not familiar with sci-fi, brace yourselves, and if it seems too far-fetched, feel free to think of it as a thought experiment. Essentially, in future, it may be possible for us to alter ourselves beyond what we consider strictly to be human. We may be able to give ourselves new abilities, such as increase our intelligence through use of artificial intelligence, bioengineering. We may be able to create smart immune systems and biological calculators. We could change ourselves drastically and radically. For instance, in future, we may be even able to change the human psyche, making us able to have time-stamped memories where you could relive them in your own head. And again, this is far off. These are technologies that involve neuroscience and a variety of different complicated things. Now, essentially, ask yourselves, what is the difference between a man and a machine, or a human and a machine? A human is born, a machine is built. A human is composed of trillions of sophisticated cells. A machine is composed of inorganic, non-complex parts. A machine is repaired, a human heals, a human can be convinced, a machine can be hacked. Now, essentially, in the future, the differences are fairly clear-cut. However, this may change in the future. Coolant veins in machines might eventually begin to resemble the human circulatory system, with nanomachines being circulated instead of coolant to repair the machine. Integrated circuits might become three-dimensional and layered like the human brain, and neurons might go the way of transistors. And then, at the end of the day, there will not just be humans and machines, there will be a spectrum where people may begin to lie in between. Now, how does any of this relate to warfare, ethics, and/or survival? Currently, we still struggle with racism. We still struggle with a difference in skin color. That's it. I don't mean to oversimplify. Oversimplification is incredibly dangerous in this day and age. However, how will we react when these machines and these cyborgs, if you would like to call them that, arrive? The people who supported racial and sexual equality might not still feel the same way about the machines that become smarter and eventually take their jobs. Racists might eventually consider dropping the idea that people of other skin colors are less deserving of life and change that to the machines. Out of this question, I wonder, how will we react when if we cannot work together now, how will we react when the differences become far more tangible and real? When we will not, and as well as the consequences, such as autonomous microdrones and hacking. So how do we stop this event? How do we stop a moral and technological catastrophe that is most definitely on its way? Now, essentially, I know what I've said is far-fetched, but again, even if you don't believe me, technology is still moving, and we still need to cover these problems. Nuclear weapons are still out there. They have not gotten any less dangerous than they are right now. Now, essentially, it is my belief that only by removing the motivation to do bad will we stop it. We must learn to be empathetic with one another. We must be able to look at love as an engineering task, essentially. Rather than sensationalizing it, it is complex, and essentially we need to look past people's evils and essentially see them as human beings. My ultimate point is that ethics are not getting easier, they are getting harder, and we need to acknowledge that people who are born into a world with violence will navigate their world with violence, and until we are able to essentially, again, see people, be willing to forgive, we will not be able to survive in the future. We need to be empathetic, as it is nearly impossible to stop every single terrorist attack, dictator, and essentially the consequences, again, will become much more dangerous in the future. Thank you for listening. Thank you.